Alright, welcome back to Metal Heroes Review, episode 67. Yes, I'm finally back after almost 3 weeks basically be gone from basically a series. I'm back, and I'm basically going to finish the series up and move on to my next Sentai series. Because I don't want to basically be just overrun with a bunch of Metal Hero stuff. I want to do some Sentai too, because they both are probably finished about the same period of time. So, with this, we'll be discussing episodes 25 to 28 of Spielban. 25 is noteworthy for basically the end of two characters and the return of two characters. And also an upgrade for something. So, after a 2-minute recap of the previous episode that had just aired, I'm sure maybe the following week. Now, I noticed basically for these air dates of these shows, it's like, okay, so let's just do this little break stuff. So, episode 24 aired on December 22nd, 1986. While 25th episode aired on October 13th, 1986. Roughly about 2 or 3 weeks later. It's actually the first of several breaks they do for the series. I don't know why they did this for, but they did. Now, basically, Ghislaine is basically, okay, he had to come up with his own plan, because this is basically first day of the job as the Emperor. Despite the fact he's more like Queen Bedora's top general, because General Jetstone has failed her a lot throughout the series. So Ghislaine proceeds to go to a room which has not been seen since episode 21 of the series. A room that contains Dr. Bio and Helen. Now, why in the world they were absent the past few episodes? Well, because they're locked in this room, and Helen was recovering. And with this episode, she is recovering, and she's out for tube. And of course, trying to get someone else. Nope, basically, Dr. Bio's like, nope, you don't do anything. Fine. So, what was his plan? Simple. Upgrade the BattleBots. Excuse me, the battle robots. Yeah, for some reason, also because Dr. Bio made a few of these things. There's no more bio life forms. Also, I've noticed though for a little while now that the character Degro, the Avenger who was debuted in episode 1, yeah, his last appearance was episode 19. And from what I've read, the reason why he's not featured anymore, because series are getting more serious. So let's drop the comedy stuff and basically get more serious with the series. That could be basically something I'm sure that probably the viewers probably very happy with, because he was probably not probably not welcome. Probably because they were getting tired of all the comic relief characters in Metal Heroes. Yeah. And plus also he was probably a little bit annoying. And the fact he kept driving himself in the red way too much. So, he also decides to take Gunther and Shadow under his wing to train them to destroy Spielban's armor. And of course, straightforward pierce it. If you pierce it, I'll make you my right-hand women. Despite the fact they work for Riki. Yes, they are Riki's subordinates, and he's taking her subordinates. The reason for this is not exactly explained here. So, of course, makes a robot, the Bell Spielban, and of course taking Diane hostage, which is interesting. And this is noteworthy for the first time that Spielban has seen him as Emperor Ghislaine, because last time we saw him in the previous episode, he was a freaking hobo. Now he basically is basically like a biker, like a rebel biker with face paint. So the big thing in this episode is that where after he defeats the monster, he's gonna be weak. So the girls proceed to move in and try to kill him. But he gets taken away and they end up destroying them. Yep, the two subordinates of Riki, who debuted in episode 1, are destroyed in the 25th episode of the series. And they are the first characters to go of all the villains. Dr. Bio himself is not dead, he was just written out the series. Now, Dr. Bio was only brought back here just for a handful of episodes, and then he's out for a lot of the series until a few more episodes after, until a I mean, after basically 30, he does not pop up again until like the penultimate episode of this entire series. Because he's absent. So, of course, Ricky's upset with the fact that her support from suicide bombers, well, they failed anyways, and it's written off. So, that's the big thing about 25. It's like, return of 2 characters and a death of 2 characters. That's pretty much in a way what episode 25 was. Episode 26. This one is interesting to say the least. So, the big thing with 26 is that really wants to use Helene. So, basically, Ghislaine decides to make an android of her. Yes, an android who poses as her. Yes. And then we're thinking that she is Helen. This subject she actually isn't. Oh, if you're curious, in her human form, she played the same actress who played, excuse me. Well, basically, probably her suit actors. It's a very interesting idea, and the whole thing is about. It's like the first episode is finding his weakness. This one is all about breaking down his psyche. Like, okay, interesting. And of course, also, Dr. Bio himself doesn't really do anything at all. He's basically, at this point, just a brain with eyes and a spine. That's it. Now, interesting premise. Now, 27 is also an interesting episode. This features an alien species known as the porcelains, where they have this blue blood which keeps them young, and apparently like a drop of this thing is worth a fortune, it seems like. And Walter really wants his blood so badly. So we have 2 apparent survivors of this planet. And basically, I think his name's Amma, I think his name is. He looks like a Roman general the way he's dressed. As for Rami, she looks like a senator's daughter. It's almost like these two walk up the set of basically a Japanese production of like maybe like Julius Caesar's, maybe like the Shakespeare Julius Caesar, because it's literally like costumes pulled basically out of Rome. And apparently, like that, the bacteria is basically Earth bacteria is something that's really bad for them. And also the fact that the Earth sunlight is terrible for their eyes. It's way too bright for them. So the only way they can survive on Earth is wear sunglasses. Which, okay, interesting. You would never suspect that for the series, but... And of course, the plan did fail, but Ghislaine wasn't punished for it. Also, apparently, then he also apparently has death. Now, in the case of 25, basically he's like, death zone. And of course, he does a little bad right away. Excuse me. And 28 is a very odd episode, to say the least. It opens up with, get this, and this will surprise you. And given the fact it's Marco Sangu, doing this is not surprising. We have Queen Bedora putting up a disguise to brainwash pregnant women. Of course, we don't know these women are pregnant until we turn the camera to the sides of their desk. That's when we find out the women. And basically, Ghislaine's plan is to create lazy Japanese people to the point where they're quitting their jobs and just listen to this one CD all day. And that's all they do. And Spielban just happens to come across this because the mother of like a kid basically is like, well, she basically went to buy groceries. Okay. Here in the U.S., a child can't exactly do that, per se. Because sometimes, basically, a child is not very safe for them. So, you know, if they go to a place like this, unless, of course, the place is nearby, a lot of the time, you gotta have an adult with you. That's kind of how the stuff is here. So, Spielban picks her up and takes her to her house where her mother doesn't answer the door because she's listening to this CD. She's like, oh, that song seems familiar. It takes a bit of time to realize, oh yeah, that's Queen Bedora. And get this. She may be the leader of the World Empire, But this was not her idea. This was basically Emperor Ghislaine's idea. Oh yeah, and get this. Like, it's really the end of the episode, the thing that creates the CDs, like, oh, what's the CD factor creating these things? It's the robot. Now, I do gotta admit, the CD thing is an interesting idea used for a villain plot. Because it's the late 80s, CDs probably becoming very popular. Like, it's basically a fresh new technology at the time, so I'm sure they probably feel, hey, why don't we use this part of villain plot? I guess that the writer, like, let's do that. Like, and I guess the producer's like, okay, cool. Let's do that. And quite an interesting episode. Helene doesn't do anything in this episode. Neither Dr. Bio. Of course, they're just basically here to witness all this stuff. I don't think they actually appear in this episode, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to think. No, they don't. They do appear in 25, 26, 27. I think they're absent for 28. Because I don't remember them pop up for this episode. Yes. But that's your 4 episodes in a nutshell. Yep. So with that, basically, when it comes to Spielban, I now have exactly about 16 episodes left to go for the entire series. I'd say tomorrow I'll probably get through most of the series, most remaining episodes, and probably finish it up, I'm guessing, Thursday or Friday at the latest. Okay? So yeah, this particular view, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do not hit the dislike button. Now, I don't have time to do a review for this one, but I do have time to do 2 comic corners. Yep, but next video. Bye.